Josie's not an evangelist, she missed the opportunity, but I would have said, well, you need to get saved so you can pray to God. Anyway, so when I started praying, this is true, this is provoking the jealousy. And so my dad told Josie one day, she said, you know, when I pray, she wakes up and she says, good morning, God, this is my dad, Josie's friend. But Romans 11 says some of the natural branches have been broken off, and wild branches are grafted in among them, and with them, it says, the same tree, and with them become partakers of the goodness of the root. The NIV Bible says you become partakers of the fatness, or the nourishing fat, it says. Now, the last time the church was in her full glory, the real church, when signs and wonders were normal, where, according to Acts chapter 2 or 3 or 4, they held meetings and everybody got healed, where they had to get a guy through the roof just to get it in. And Jesus said, Yeshua said, these things I do, whosoever believeth in me, they will do. That's our inheritance. Greater things. Sounds good to me. So let's be honest, it's not a part of my everyday testimony. I wish it was. So I know God hasn't changed. And I believe if you look at the church history actually, when the replacement theology came in, the signs and the wonders went out. The fivefold ministry was lost. And the church began to walk on a path that took her into what we call the Dark Ages, 1,000 years of darkness. And my Bible tells me that God is a God of light, and in Him there is no darkness. So you have to ask the question, if the church was really being led and filled with the Spirit of the living God, how did it end up in 1,000 years of darkness? I believe the answer to that was they cut themselves off, or they were cut off from the Hebraic roots and replanted in Greek roots. And I believe that the more we get back and re-establish those lines back to the true roots, because that's where the power was coming from. And this may be a part of my message tonight, but Romans 12:2 says, do not be conformed to the image of this world, but be transformed. Now, if we made in God's image, right, why would we need to be transformed? Because the whole world lies under the influence of the evil one. And I believe that from the time we are even in the womb, unless we are totally surrounded by a biblical environment, then the world, the spirit of the world, is pushing us on us. You know, even when the baby's in the womb, the young mother may be going into hairdressing salons or clothing shops, all that rock music and stuff. Everything it's hearing in its environment, not everything, but a lot. And then it's born and starts going to kindergarten, then school, and all the way through. It's like the world is conforming into the image of the world, which is the other kingdom. And so God says through Paul, do not be conformed to the image of this world, be transformed to become the person that we were created to be in God's image, or to become the image. You know, Paul says, imitate me as I imitate the Lord. Imitate means to do exactly the same thing. Just as a little blind issue there, Yeshua was a Torah-keeping Jew. And he wouldn't have eaten some of the things that are on the table at lunch today. But I believe the more we become unconformed, or non-conformed, or disconformed, I don't know which is the right one, the more we become less conformed to the image of the world, and the more we become like the image of Yeshua, those things will just happen all around us in automatic mode. Because the more we become like Him, the more we will be able to do the things He did, because the Father will be able to work through us. So if you want to know the rest of that message, come tonight. But anyway, that's the way to get back to that's the sort of thing that will provoke the Jewish people to jealousy, is to let them see the works of God being done. And then I say, how did you do that? And then you can tell them, when they've asked the question, then you can tell them, I can do that because your Holy Spirit, that's what my wife says to these ladies. She says, I've got your Holy Spirit, provoking the jealousy. I've got what you should have. Totally different perspective, not, hey, come and join our church and have s'mores on Sunday. Shouldn't say that, should I? There are some good churches, and I've had some. There are some wonderful churches and some wonderful Christians. Okay, we've got to go for time. Maybe another one or two.
Just as one point, my understanding of provoking the Jews' jealousy is quite simply, because I have Jewish people connected in my family, I find that Jews are very inquisitive people. And I think the best way, my understanding of provoking the Jews' jealousy is by us showing our Christian love to the world. Last year, back in the last year, I was out in Jerusalem, in Ramat Rachel, on the overlooking Bethlehem, and we invited the manager of the hotel there to let us use the hotel. Money was raised to buy food, and we went out to Israel, and the aim was to feed something like about 25,000 Russian Jewish people. They were very poor, of course, and because I'm one of my workers out in Israel there, I'm in the Shishon at the top, where there are a lot of Holocaust survivors, and we said, bring them down to Jerusalem. So we brought a coachload of Holocaust survivors down to Jerusalem. Their big fear was, why are we going to Jerusalem? Well, you're going to be given a good meal, and I'm going to have Christian people serving you. The last time the Christian people did anything for us was to feed us into the gas chambers. They were dead scared. But Mickey Yarn, bless him, said, no, these are different Christians. So these Jewish people arrived, and they had their marks on their arms here, you know, the tattoos. And it wasn't too long before these Jewish people were, these Holocaust survivors were really settling in amongst us. In actual fact, at the end of the day, by the time we finished feeding them and they did their chicken and their dance and so on and so forth, we were able to share the gospels with most of them. We had a job to get them back into the coach and send them back up to the top where we want to go. But the wonderful thing about it is the next day, Mickey Yarrow phoned my wife, we were still in Jerusalem at the time, Mickey Yarrow phoned my wife and he said, would you let H, that's me, would you let H know that over 30 of those Holocaust survivors, when we were travelling back up to taking them back to the Haifa area, they wanted to know where the Messianic assemblies were.
Wow, that's fantastic.
And one of the things about it is, a lot of those Holocaust survivors have now come to put their trust in Yeshua as their Savior. So, for me, dear friends, I think we need to get ourselves really involved in showing our love to the Jewish people. That will promote them to jealousy. They'll realise we've got something which they haven't.
Exactly. And just the other way to provoke the jealousy is like my wife, we've done is share testimony, but you have to have a testimony to share, right? And you only get a testimony to step out of the boat. Don't look at the waves like Peter did, where we Googling your testimony. You just get out there and do something for God that you can't do by yourself, and then you've already got you've got a testimony that you can tell other people about. And here's the thing, if you can provoke the Judas jealousy, because we're hard work, if you can provoke the Judas jealousy, your family and your friends will be easy meat, right? Where's the mic?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hi. I just wanted to ask, basically you've been talking about the Jews returning, the old Israel who saved. If we look at like Ezekiel 36 to do with Aliyah and Jews returning, that almost it seems from that their returning is a prerequisite for them being saved. So as we're praying for Israel, would you also say that a very important part with that is through the intercession is also to be part of bringing the Jews back to Israel?
Absolutely.
In terms of like for Jesus to return, and also with the whole like Israel state, you would agree, I guess, that it's not just a case of the Israeli state kicking all the Arabs out of Jerusalem. It is for the Jewish people to return to their land and encounter their God.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Well, my wife has this intercession ministry called Intercessors for the Restoration of Israel. If anybody's interested, I've got some flyers in my bag if anybody would like to get involved in it, if you're serious intercessors. But her primary focus, there's three focuses. There's number one is Aliyah, of return of the Jews, and God clearly says in Ezekiel 36, 8, 9 and 10, he says, one day I will bring all of the house of Israel, all of it, twice in one verse. In Ezekiel 39, 29, he says, I will leave none of them behind any longer. And Jews are supposed to feel like aliens in a foreign land. In fact, and I'm not getting at you here, sister, but what I've come to see, this might sound a little bit harsh perhaps, but I actually really believe that a Jew who doesn't live in Israel is actually a covenant breaker, because God made the covenant with Abraham for us to live in the land of Israel. But God will see to it, there is a time. And so the other thing I wanted to say, and what you're saying is that if we will learn to do things God's way, we will find, and praying His word back to Him in His order, then we will see things become different. And you can see very clearly, and it says so even in Ezekiel 37, he says, first I will bring them back to the land, and then I will sprinkle clean water on them. Now obviously that doesn't mean everybody, because there are a number of Messianic Jews who get saved before they go back. But I think for Israel as a whole, it's like, Joseph revealed himself to his brothers privately. And we truly believe God is, God's plan is to bring the Jews home first, and then sprinkle clean water on them. So if we will pray in that order, then God can really work with our prayers. And just praise God that you come to the meeting and with that understanding, because it really is correct. And there are at least, my wife's got a list of 84, but there's probably more. At least 84 verses that speak about the requirement of the return of the Jews to the land before the Lord comes back. But how many people's pastors have preached a message on Aliyah on Sunday morning? 1, 2, you're the pastor. But do you know what I'm saying? 99.9% of churches never mention it. And God says it's a total requirement before the Lord can return.
I didn't get your question.
The question was basically.
How many pastors preach on how?
Oh, my question. And my question was how many, because we're saying the return of the Jews is so important to the return of the Lord, how many pastors would preach about the Jews going home to Israel on Sunday morning to their church? Okay, we're starting to run out of time, so we need to move along a little bit.
It's a question concerning the anti-Semitism.
Yeah.
Do you think that the pressure could start to come off Israel, certainly in the West, as Islam becomes more and more the group of hate?
No, I would say the opposite is true. I mean, no matter what happens, they blame the Jews, right? And they even blame the Jews for sinking the Titanic. Did you know that? There was an iceberg. Iceberg, Rosenberg, Goldberg. What's the difference? Hang on, just make it tonight.
Let me put the question up way. If you're a fairly rational Western person who doesn't really bother about Easter or not, why should you hate Israel when it's essentially the Islamic world that is cutting off your oil and natural resources, this sort of thing?
That's easy to answer. Again, the whole world lies under the influence of the evil one. I just believe there's a corporate spirit of deception upon the world. I mean, to us, it's so obvious, but our family, our friends, they can't see what we're talking about. Islam is taking over the UK, Islam is taking over, that's their ambition, and we've been told that it's a peaceful religion. So it's because they are listening to the